Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Sonic the Hedgehog 3, number 2 would be Mufasa the Lion King, number 3 would be A Complete Unknown, number 4 would be Nosferatu, and number 5 would be Wicked. And I only got 2 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. I'm not too bummed about it though, because I saw a result that I'm actually quite pleased by. So I didn't get my predictions right, and nobody else did as well. There are plenty of options to choose from. I saw some people going for A Complete Unknown as number 1, or switching Nosferatu around, but nobody got their predictions right, unfortunately. Also, just quick reminder, please get your predictions in as soon as possible when I upload these videos, because, depending on the time you upload the comment versus when I check it on Sunday, even if you get it in at the last second, it's still my default, and it looks like maybe you uploaded the comment like on Friday when estimates have come in as far as like what it might start looking like, especially with, release like this where 3 movies came out in the middle of the week. So that's, just a reminder for those out there, get them in as soon as possible, and don't edit your comments as well. Just if you make a mistake, delete the comment and, upload it again, or just leave it. We probably know what it is. Anyways, let's go over what happened in the overall top 10. Number 1 was once again Sonic the Hedgehog 3, holding over pretty well. As we talked about last time, it opened to about 62 million. It didn't even really get to like half of that. It made 38 million this weekend, so not even a complete 50% drop. That is fantastic. Of course, we're only talking about the 3-day weekends here, but that does add to an overall domestic total of $136 million worldwide. We actually have some worldwide totals now. Last weekend we didn't, but it is sitting at 210 million, so they are about 34 million away from doubling their initial production budget of 122 million. I think the fact that, domestically they've already like crossed over the initial production point, without the worldwide numbers, I think that's just a strong testament to how, at the very least in the States, people are really responding to this. And I think when we get more worldwide totals, it'll start to really shape up as well. So I'm very pleased to see this, obviously. As far as the Sonic franchise, it's catching up to the first film. Domestically, it needs 10 million until it outgrosses it there. And then, 2 is the competition. Worldwide, it is sitting at 92. We had talked a little bit last weekend about how opening weekend-wise, 2 was ahead of 3, but 3 was ahead of the first one. So this one being on track so far to outpace the first one, obviously is not that surprising. I think it was just about, will it be able to still have this momentum over the holiday season to outpace the second movie? So, we'll get to that at some point, but obviously right now it's in a pretty stellar spot. As far as video game films, domestically, it did outgross the original Lara Croft Angelina Jolie film by 5 million. It's only sitting behind the FNAF movie by 1 million, and then it's over that one. Incredible. I know, since we were talking about how, as far as opening weekends, FNAF had, a higher one than all 3 of these movies, but, because, Blumhouse made the greatest decision of all time, putting it on Peacock on the very same day, kneecapping so much of its box office run. Sonic is just going to easily outgross that, and that's cool, because FNAF fucking sucks. Worldwide, for video game films, it outgrossed Need for Speed by 16 million. It's sitting behind Resident Evil Retribution. Good luck telling me which one that one is. It needs 30 million until it outgrosses that. So there you go. It's jumping forward in these lists, and we'll see how well it continues to do. Like I said earlier, it's on track right now to, double its budget and then triple it either 2 weeks from now. My guesstimate is maybe 2 weeks from now, maybe 3. But it's off to a really stellar start, obviously, and that's fantastic. Now let's move on to number 2, which is Mufasa the Lion King. Now, last weekend, made a video, obviously. The title is Mufasa Dethroned by Sonic. I was really just talking about, because, we go by the rankings of the domestic numbers here. Sorry, I don't have a separate video going over the list for the worldwide debuts. My bad. I was really just kind of talking about that, and also it just seemed like, the conversation was so much so centered around Sonic and people being excited about Shadow and Jim Carrey. Oh my gosh. And Mufasa was just like, well, yeah, it'll probably make money because it is a Disney family film, but like, as far as its cultural relevance, where is it? But I think I even did mention in the video, it will probably end up being fine, because, they did open pretty well worldwide, and over the holiday season, people will probably still go see it. The budget is 200 million, which is weird to say that that's low for a Disney blockbuster, but it is, technically. We've seen them be higher. It's just never going to reach the heights of the 2019 film, which I think is a pretty good, indicator of where people are kind of at with these live action Disney remakes or sequels to the remakes, kind of trend that they've been on, and where it could potentially keep going if they keep at it, or at least keep at it in this way. So I just wanted to preface that, before anyone is like, you tried to call it a flop or something. I don't know if maybe I made fun of it a little too much, but I think I was more so just trying to make fun of how, it fell. It definitely had a fall from grace, for sure. Anyways, it made $37 million, so it's only $1 million away from Sonic. So they've been neck and neck this holiday season. They continue to be for the weekend. It's just right now Sonic has edged it out. It adds to a domestic total of $113 million. So in order to catch up to the 2019 film, it needs 430 AO. Worldwide, it is sitting at 327. So if they keep it up and make 73 million more, they will double their 200 million initial production budget. They will still need 1.334 billion until they outgross the 2019 film, but it's the Aquaman, Lost Kingdom. Was that the subtitle? It's the Aquaman 2 of this year, where it's a sequel to a $1 billion grosser, and now it's kind of like, well, it's kind of barely breaking even, but you know what I mean? Oh gosh, yeah. So there you go. It's gonna probably continue to hold over. Well, like next weekend, The Damned is coming out. Does anyone even know what that is? As far as mainstream audiences, yeah, it's probably not even gonna crack the top 5, right? So it'll probably, stay the same. These movies here, maybe the numbers will only dip a little bit, or maybe it will be drastic, only time will tell. But, like I said, Mufasa will probably end up being fine. But it is very funny how Sonic, has all people's attention a lot more. People are way more impressed with that, and especially our number 3 film, Nosferatu, and this is why I was like earlier, I got my predictions wrong, but I'm kind of happy because of the turnout. Nosferatu, and when I went to see this movie, it was the 26th, the day after Christmas, I was kind of surprised to see how many people showed up. I was kind of like, I didn't know that so many people were going to be seeing that. I'm not sure why, I for whatever reason, I guess, I didn't factor in, vampires are kind of appealing for many people, especially in a horror film. I just thought maybe Nosferatu was maybe going to be a weirder one to sell, but it made $21 million for the 3-day weekend, and then overall its domestic run adds to $40 million so far. And this is on a budget of $50 million, the initial production budget. So worldwide, it's only bumped up to 43. We'll see if they can, bump that up as weeks go on. Domestically, I'm hoping they can carry on as well, because, this is an A24 Civil War situation where if they keep a modest kind of collection going in, they can double this initial production budget. I think those movies even have the same production budget. They can double it though. And, that would just be really cool to see a Robert Eggers Nosferatu movie making $100 million, overall. That would be so cool. As far as Robert Eggers' filmography, though, in opening weekends, this is definitely his highest. It's $21 million over The Lighthouse, $13 million over The Witch, and $9 million over The Northman. And it's probably going to be a financially successful film compared to The Northman as well, especially when you consider that domestically it has outgrossed The Lighthouse by $30 million, The Witch by $15, and The Northman by $6. It is already Robert Eggers' highest grossing film domestically. Worldwide, it did outgross The Lighthouse by 25 and The Witch by 3. It still needs 26 million until it outgrosses The Northman, so a little ways to go there, but I mean, we'll probably be seeing that happen next weekend. So this is going to be Robert Eggers' highest grossing film, and that's really cool. It's, it's kind of hard to rank his movies because I admire him so much as an artist and I love all of his movies, but it might be my favorite. I don't know, man. It's kind of something else. And like I was saying before, as far as people going to see it, I think the cinema score was also B-, which is once again, pretty good, for me, kind of thinking, the worst of it kind of before. And I don't know, I think I'm kind of reminded of Long Legs earlier this year, where it got, obviously not the same budget as this, but, it kind of got a good, traction, some good word of mouth as far as what is it? Oh, maybe you got to see it. It's kind of unreal, blah, 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 just got to see it for yourself. And then it, earned a pretty good sum, over the course of its release. And I'm hoping that Nosferatu kind of has the same thing here, because I mean, walking out of the theater, I feel like, people were earnestly talking about it. You could hear the discussions, people staying in the theater, watching through the credits and then walking out. Some people still in the lobby that I recognize from the theater. It's yeah, people are discussing it and chatting about it, and I just think that's really, really cool. So I do hope that this one continues to hold over well as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that, and I think it's a really excellent movie. Go see it. To see the madness that is Bill Skarsgård alone, that is, it's kind of crazy to think that that's him. If there's any other reason to see that movie, maybe that's what it is. People are like, well, I hear that Bill Skarsgård's unrecognizable in it, and I don't know what that's all about. And you really don't. Like, you really just have to see what people mean. It's kind of more than just he's buried in makeup. It's kind of wild. At number 4, we have Wicked making $19 million, adding to a domestic total of $424 million. For musical films, it did outgross domestically Frozen by $11 million. It's sitting behind Frozen 2 by $66 million. So yeah, if you look at like this domestic weekend, the sing-along editions did come out. So I think you can notice a little bit of like a bump here and kind of a more tight race between this and like Nosferatu. Like Nosferatu's only $2 million over this, and that's pretty crazy to think about, As far as the year 2024 domestically, it is $112 million away from outgrossing Deadpool and Wolverine now, but shifting over to worldwide, it is sitting at $634 million. So they've crossed over the $600 million point. They have quadrupled their initial production budget of $150 million. So that is pretty spectacular. I don't know if they have the momentum to get to 750, but they've already worked wonders on everybody, so it's all good. As far as musical films worldwide, it outgrossed the first Mamma Mia by 15 million. So, technically this makes Wicked now officially the highest grossing film adaptation of a stage musical ever, now that it's beat Mamma Mia worldwide, which is kind of wild to think about. Mamma Mia was the one that did. Actually, that's not that wild. I feel like that makes sense. But now, as far as like the rest of the musical films on this list, it needs 26 million until it outgrosses Wonka. So right now it's number 6th highest grossing ever. But as soon as it makes that 26 million, it's in the top 5. So they're on track for it. As far as the year 2024 worldwide, they need 73 million until they outgross Dune 2. So they are also just right outside the top 5. And both are Timothée Chalamet movies. That's weird. Now going into number 5, Wicked's true competitor, Moana 2, where, worldwide they have the upper hand, but domestically it's like they're losing traction. More Americans want Wicked, which is kind of crazy. But Moana 2 did make 18 million, so once again, very neck and neck. That adds to a domestic total of 394 million. So for domestically, for Disney Animation, it needs 6 million until it outgrosses Frozen, but it is still in the top 3 highest grossing domestic runs for that studio. For the year 2024, it did outgross Despicable Me 4 by 33 million. So the next film it outgrosses, that would place Moana 2 as the number 4 highest grossing film of the year. But unfortunately, it's Wicked. And as discussed, not only are they very neck and neck, but Wicked has had a much better domestic hold than Moana 2 has had. So, it's not impossible that Moana 2 can pull it, but also, with Oscar noms right around the corner and it looking like Wicked's going to score big and Moana 2 probably won't get jack shit, I feel like more attention is going to be on that one. Worldwide, like we have discussed, yes, that has Wicked beat there, sitting at 882 million. It still is behind Zootopia for Disney Animation. It needs 143 million until it outgrosses it for the year 2024. Although domestically it outgrossed this film, worldwide it is behind Despicable Me 4 by 87 million. So still in the top 4 there. So there you go, Moana 2. Like I said, the constant battle between these two musicals that overall are both massive successes. Anyways, number 6 is A Complete Unknown. I thought for sure, musician biopic and it's rising star Timothée Chalamet, maybe this would get into the top 5, and it didn't. It doesn't mean that it's completely, out of the running as far as like being a financial success. There's no worldwide totals to bump it up right now, so it is looking a little weird, but we did just kind of start the holiday season and it's not nominated for Oscars yet, so give it some time. But still, it only made 11 million for the 3-day weekend, adding to a domestic total of 23 million, and the budget, according to Wikipedia, sits somewhere between 60 to 70 million. So quite a bit that they will need to make back. As far as James Mangold's films, the opening weekend is 11 million over Heavy and Girl Interrupted, and 2 million over Kate and Leopold, but it is below Copland by 2 million, 3:10 to Yuma by 3, Identity by 5, Night and Day by 9, Walk the Line by 11, Ford v Ferrari by 20 million. It's 42 million below The Wolverine, 49 million below Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and 77 million below Logan. So definitely one of his lower end ones. Not even one that's like smack dab in the middle, not an opening weekend that's, right up there with Walk the Line unadjusted for inflation, or even Ford v Ferrari. It's very much so on the lower end. And obviously, it is a movie that opened up on Christmas Day, middle of the week on a Wednesday, so that probably might have had something to do with not as much of like a front-loaded opening weekend. Instead, it's kind of paced out throughout the week. Like I said, it's only the beginning of this film's run, and they're probably banking more on like awards love as opposed to like being financially successful right out of the gate. And there's no worldwide totals to bump it up yet, so we'll see. But I'm sure this is not exactly what they want. The fact that Nosferatu really outpaced them, might be irking them a little bit. Number 7 is Babygirl, making 4.3 million, adding to a domestic total of 7.2. There is no worldwide total for this thing, but the budget is 20 million. So I didn't ever think this would crack the top 5 just because of what's already out. I was kind of baffled to see that the budget is 20 million. That really surprised me for some reason. I know it's got Nicole Kidman and Antonio Banderas, but it's a very almost like very minimalist kind of movie. And obviously, I never try to claim to be an expert as far as like what goes into a movie, what costs what, but 20 million definitely seemed very high. You know what I mean? So as far as making that money back, I don't know unless it has a really great hold. But I feel like the word of mouth has just kind of been, like I like the movie. It's not as good as the director's previous film, Bodies, 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 which I loved. But it was fun. It's not obviously, it's so, oh my gosh, it's so crazy, but it's not that crazy. I feel like people will say that just because of the subject matter, but they won't look at how it's implemented or how they show it all. It's a movie that oddly feels very tame considering what it's about. So I feel like that has something to do with like some people's word of mouth reaction kind of just feeling more so like, kind of passive. It's not really lighting the world on fire. You know what I mean? As far as, the director's previous film, it needs 4 million until they outgross Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. So there's that at least. And obviously they had a higher opening weekend because Bodies, Bodies, Bodies opened limited. And they had to build up the release as it went on, obviously. So I don't know. It's, it's going to outgross a movie, but is it going to be successful? Do they care? I don't know. I think also they were banking on this one to be like a Nicole Kidman Best Actress run as well. But I feel like if you look at Gold Derby, which I often do these days, it seems like she's almost kind of out of the mix as far as like who people like think is going to make it. And obviously that's no indicator of what's actually going to be nominated. It's just, people guessing. But the fact that so many people are kind of like preferring other people now instead of Nicole Kidman when she was up there for so long, maybe that awards run is not going to work out. At least for the Oscars. She was nominated for a Golden Globe, I think, or whatever. Anyways, number 8 is Gladiator II, making 4.1 million, adding to a domestic total of 163. So it's 34 million away until it outgrosses the original, and only 2 million away until it outgrosses Hannibal for Ridley Scott. So it's almost breaking the top 3 highest grossing domestic runs for him worldwide. It is sitting at 435 million. So 16 million until they get to the original film. But it is currently in the top 3 here in the worldwide run. So I don't know what else needs to be said about this. Talked about it for so much. Like, even though it has doubled one of its estimated budgets of 210 million, there's still that other side where people think it ballooned to over 300 million. And this run doesn't necessarily paint the picture of a success when you look at it that way. But is that even true? I don't know. Glicked, but it didn't really happen because this movie did not light the world on fire like Wicked is currently doing. But neither film also, made the money that Barbenheimer did, So yeah, Glicked really was a fucking failure, all things considered. Wow, crazy. Anyways, number 9 is Homestead, making 3.1 million, adding to a domestic total of 12.8 million. For Angel Studios, they did outgross Sight by 3 million. They're now sitting behind After Death by 1. Do you care? Of course you don't. So let's close out the video with number 10, The Fire Inside. You might have forgotten that this movie was coming out, but, and obviously I didn't predict it for the top 5. I didn't think it had the attention, but this is a really good movie. Like, as far as, like, movies that kind of surprised me, when I was going in kind of thinking, it might be okay, I was kind of walking out, like, I was actually, like, really moved by that in a way I wasn't really expecting. I didn't really know anything about the real story, so I was learning it as it went along, and I found it really riveting. I thought it was a really good movie. Made 2.03 million, adding to a domestic total of 4.3. This is on a budget of 12 million. So I feel like with a better marketing push, this should have been like a clear home run as far as like modest box office returns, or just a release on a different date, a not so crowded, date like this one with Nosferatu and, Timothy and Nicole Kidman. You know what I mean? It just, both of those things, different release date, better, marketing push. This might have really done something. But right now, even though it does have a pretty fantastic budget as far as like putting it into the theaters and making that risk, it doesn't look like it's going to make that back, unfortunately. So that sucks. It's a good movie. If I can, get any message across, as much as I, want to talk about how much I'm excited for Sonic and I'm excited for Nosferatu and Wicked and all these other movies, and I want people to see Timothy Chalamet and A Complete Unknown, and maybe you want to give Babygirl a try. The Fire Inside might be the one. If I can give you any kind of message that sticks, go see The Fire Inside and give it a shot. It is really good. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I think, will be Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Number 2, Mufasa the Lion King. Number 3, Nosferatu. Number 4, Wicked. And number 5, Moana 2. That's right, the same exact top 5. I don't think anything's going to change here. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.